You're listening to Dish It Up, a monthly podcast serving up the latest news, trends, and events relating to the San Diego food scene. This podcast is recorded as a collaboration between Pacific Magazine and Eating and Drinking San Diego.
This is Edwin Real with Dish It Up. This is a monthly podcast with Pacific Magazine and Eating and Drinking in San Diego. Today's guest is Christiana Zabala with Nomad Donuts. Hi. Christiana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How's biz?
Good. It is good.
Yeah? The new place? How's that going?
It's good. We finally have gotten the original spot back open. That was closed for a while we were getting the new shop, flowing and going, and then we had to redo a couple things at the old shop, and so now that one's back up, and now we're starting to try and pick up some more wholesale orders and get some Nomad bagels out there.
Yeah, something's got to pay for that beautiful new shop, right?
Exactly.
In the old location that just reopened, What are you doing there?
That is going to become more of our coffee focused shop. So they're really trying to elevate the coffee program, and that's kind of be where it's going to be all happening. Is in that smaller shop is where they're going to really focus on the coffee.
New seating arrangements? What's going on?
We pulled since we're not producing out of there anymore, we pulled the counters back again, and so there's a few tables inside.
That's kind of like the perfect place. You go and eat at Chris's Ono Grinds next door, and then you get dessert. Now you can get coffee, you can get donuts there too, I'm assuming?
Donuts, we have a small selection over there. We're not doing bagels just yet over there, but soon to be.
You touched on wholesale. I saw that you guys were at Barron's. Where else are you doing wholesale?
Currently, we're doing communal coffee in North Park, and then we're just starting to open up that door and venture out to other, smaller coffee shops.
It's critical because you have such a big kitchen, and the best way to monetize that is to do wholesaling.
To just treat it as a commissary kitchen.
Yeah. How many employees did you go from the original location all the way to this new location? How many employees do you have now? Do you know?
We have about 26, I believe. In the old shop, the very, very, very beginning when we first opened was just Brad, Cameron, and myself. It was three of us. By the time we closed over there, finished up in the small shop, we had 5 kitchen and 4 baristas. Yeah, so went from 9 to nearly tripling.
I think that's how I first met you. When I started eating and drinking in San Diego, we did a cold brew challenge with donuts, that event.
Yes.
And I approached you guys because everyone was talking about you. You had just recently opened at that point.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring you guys in since you were down on 30th. And I met you and I met Cameron. Eventually I met Brad. But what happened to Cameron?
Cameron is doing some other business ventures. He's up in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I see him every once in a while online. I know his parents also moved down here and had a shop. Geography, I think it was called, in North Park. Yeah. What brought you to Nomad Donuts? Where were you before that? Let's go back into your career. How did you first get into cooking?
First into cooking was when I was young.
Yeah.
I started in the kitchen when I was little. Started baking. I was 7, 8. And then by the time I was probably around 10, 11, 12, I was helping cooking dinner because my mom was working a lot. And I have an older brother and older sister. I was the youngest, but my brother and sister, they were in college and they were always busy. And so everyone was busy. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll make dinner. So I started cooking family dinner every night. And then so from there, when I was in high school, I got my first job at Valley High. So that was my first job. Worked pantry and then worked line, and then graduated high school and then went straight to CCA in San Francisco. And then from there, went a little bit all over. I went to Miami. I worked at the Biltmore in Coral Gables. From there, I went to Tahoe. I was at the Plump Jack at Squaw and Jake's on the Lake. I was doing both. I was doing savory and pastry. And then went back to San Francisco, and I was at a catering company for a little while. Then I was at the Village Pub, which is a Michelin star restaurant up in Woodside, so down the peninsula, a little bit south of San Francisco. And I was there for 5 years. And after my son was born and he was 8 months, we moved back down to San Diego. And then from there, it was a little bit all over. I was at Blanca before they closed.
Oh, I remember Blanca. That was in Solana Beach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was there for a little while, and it was kind of cool because when I first moved down here and I started putting my resume out, he was, Chef Gavin, he was the first one to respond to me because he was from San Francisco too, and so he knew my chefs and my sous chef, and so we knew a lot of the same people in the industry from San Francisco. So I ended up working there, and then they ended up closing.
Is that Gavin Kaysen?
No, Gavin Schmidt.
Oh, Gavin Schmidt. Okay. You worked at Mr. A's as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so from Blanca, I was at Petco Park, so I ran the whole pastry department for Petco. I was there for 3 seasons, and then it was kind of cool because for there I got sent out to work for playoffs and World Series.
What?
So I led the pastry team for the World Series in Texas. And then from Petco, I wanted to go back to fine dining, so I went to Mr. A's. And then I was there for a year. Towards the end of that year, I started learning my hands were kind of tied creatively.
On just making stuff?
Yeah, it was first, when I got hired, it was, they wanted to elevate the desserts and do this and that. So changed it, did that. And then I don't know if it was too much for them or they wanted to simplify it more. And it just wasn't meshing well, I guess you could say, between ownership, or Bertrand, and how he was wanted the desserts and what was being produced. He wanted to make it much more simpler, I guess.
Let's go back to the Michelin star. Because I've never sat with anybody who was in a restaurant that had a Michelin star. Mm-hmm. What's the pressure like after you get that star?
It's rough. Definitely, definitely you'll get criticized a lot more. Now everyone is on you to criticize, whether they agree or everyone just, wants to talk crap that it's hype. So definitely you are under a magnifying glass for sure. I think you have to live up to the standard, and it's definitely a lot higher pressure.
What were you doing at the restaurant when they won that star?
I was executive pastry chef.
Wow. And so a huge chunk. The last thing people taste was your food.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I believe it was the second year that I was working there that they got awarded the first star.
That's incredible. The only other person I believe in town that has worked in a Michelin star restaurant is Jason McLeod at Ironside. So it's a rare thing in San Diego. Mm-hmm. Do you think we as a city deserve Michelins and James Beards?
I do. I do think there is really good food here. It's just hard because of the stigma with San Diego, how everything's a lot more relaxed, and the vibe here is so much more different. It's not a food center, I guess, as people would see it, versus San Francisco and obviously New York, Chicago. People come here more for the weather and the lifestyle versus the food. So in everyone else's mind, the food is kind of secondary, but I think food is just as great.
I was just having this conversation with a fellow food writer not too long ago, and what we were talking about was the idea that a lot of things that opened pre-2000 is very nostalgic for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And in San Diego, which is very transient, you get a lot of people who have only lived here 5 years, 6 years, where now in San Diego in the last decade, or let's say the start of the century, we've gotten really far because of the beer, because of coffee, because of wine. It's elevating the food to a different standard. What do you think about that?
I love it. I definitely think it's opening up. It also, too, is I think what's happening is people who are working out, you know, in LA, San Francisco, Chicago, are coming here because I think like the lifestyle is drawing people in the industry because it is so chaotic and fast paced, and you know, just the way it is, that people want to move to kind of where when they're not in work, it can be a lot more chill. So I think it's definitely, you're getting a lot of the people who are in the industry coming down here and like elevating that food and the beer and the wine, and then it also opens up doors to collaborate, which is I love about San Diego, is everyone in San Diego in the industry, because it is a somewhat small industry and everyone kind of knows everyone loves to collaborate, and it just opens up so many more doors for creativity and flavors and stuff like that.
Before you, I wouldn't have thought that beer and donuts go together, and you pair that so well.
Thank you.
What's your next collaboration?
Far as beer pairing events, I don't have the calendar off the top of my head, but we do host, we try to do about at least 2 a month. So it's varying. We probably have one with Thorn coming up. We have one with Thorn. We do a quarterly one with them. Kilowatt, we do a regular one with them. There's probably going to be coming up soon. And I'm not sure which other ones, but...
Can you walk me through that process? What is it? Do you go to the brewer or the brewery and just taste the beers, and then you go and pair it? Or do they go to you and say, hey, we think this beer will go with that?
It goes different ways. So let's see. With Thorn, because they're the most regular one, whenever I go there, I meet up with Anna, and she just pours a tasting of everything they have. So I go down the whole line and literally just start tasting everything. And for that one I use beers in either bagel or donut, either the glaze or filling somehow. Like the brown we cook the brisket in it for the bagel. Sometimes it ends up in the glaze or the custard. But so we'll taste and we'll use something in it, and then sometimes we'll pair a different beer, pick up flavor. So we'll end up, for a 3x3 pairing, we'll really end up using 6 beers.
Wow. So
it'll be like 3 in paired with a different 3.
Yes.
So that's with Thorn. Other ones are different. Some breweries, they want to highlight a specific release of a beer, and so we'll do an event or pairings based off of, you know, specific ones that they want us to use.
You also collaborate with a lot of other chefs around town to do these pairing dinners. I've seen you at Council.
Council. The other most recent ones I've done was North Park Beer did a dinner, and Small Bar had a dinner a couple months ago.
You're like one of the all-stars when it comes to desserts. I mean, is that pigeonholing you? I mean, because I know you like to cook tamales and other things too. I mean, does it pigeonhole you to only be doing desserts?
Not really. It's funny enough is for one of the council dinners, Phil asked if I minded if he did the dessert, and I was like, no, that'd be awesome. So yeah, it definitely, when it comes to these collaborations, a lot of, I guess for that same exact reason, as a lot of other chefs know that I like doing savory food too, and they will always put out to you, they're like, you don't have to do dessert, like you're not expected to just do the donut or dessert. So I don't think it does pigeonhole me.
I think Nomad is one of those places that are just so generous with the community, and I for one appreciate it. Like I wasn't anybody, you know, I just came to you guys because I wanted to bring you guys into donuts, into this donut competition. And you've always been so generous with your time, with your product, with your space. What is dealing with the community, and why is dealing with the community important to you?
Because it's like a give and take. It's like you feed each other, you know, to keep kind of yourself going. You can't just be taking from the community. You have to give back to, it all comes full circle. As you give back to the community, they'll remain your customers, and kind of vice versa. You kind of just give back, to where you're putting your feet down.
In the future, do you see Nomad Donuts opening up little cafes, little standalone donut shops? Not necessarily where you make the donuts, because now you have this huge facility.
Yeah, definitely. We would. That is definitely talks in the future, is to open up, more of just counter fronts, just coffee counters where we can deliver and just produce, in our now big kitchen, our big shop, and we can just deliver to little storefronts.
You went from like 700 square feet to like 35?
Yeah, almost 35.
Wow.
Yeah. I think our whole shop can like fit in our dry storage.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, I've seen I've toured your facility with Brad, and it's just an amazing spot. I think also what you guys are doing that a lot of people do appreciate is that you're doing vegan, you're doing bagels, you're doing regular donuts, and you're doing, crazy flavors. How do you position Nomad Donuts? Is it a hipster donut shop, as people have said? How do you want people to perceive Nomad Donuts?
I wouldn't say it's hipster. We're not trying to be something that's trendy. We definitely just want it to be somewhere that is a place for everyone. That's why our whole, globally influenced theme is we wanted to kind of cater to everyone. We're not trying to be really anything too pretentious. We just wanted to have fun. It's donuts, so we want to have fun with it, be able to experiment, to have some funky flavors. And that's the whole nice thing about a changing menu, is we're not tied into something, and we can always have fun and stay creative.
And before, let's say, Grand Ole Barbecue, you were one of the first places I know in town that was just like, we're closed. We have no more food, I do appreciate that, because we always know it's fresh, and it's not, you had such a small shop that it wasn't about, this artificial selling out. It was, this is all we have room for.
Yeah. It literally got to the point in the small shop where it was like, we don't have any more space in the kitchen to bring another rolling rack in, another cart, to even produce more. It was literally just running out of space. Like, we don't have any more space in the fridges to make any more glazes. We were seriously maxed out on how much we can produce in there.
Was it a surprise?
It was a surprise with how quickly it got to that point. We figured eventually, we would outgrow that space, but we didn't think it was going to happen as quickly as it did.
It's like a 2.5 year process where you guys like opened up that shop and then needed to grow.
But yeah, within that first year, we already saw that we were outgrowing it, and that we were going to need a bigger space.
One of the things that also makes your place special, in my opinion, is that you do everything from scratch. There's so many donut places that are renowned, and when you look at it, you look closely. I used to own a pastry shop, so I look at these things, and you see mixes, and you see jellies that are in tubs. What do you think of that, without naming names?
So many thoughts on that. We definitely, at least I can speak for ourselves, is when we say that, everything's made from scratch, we're going to stay true to it. All the jams and custards, everything's made from scratch. The doughs, we do, blends of flours and special mixes. So everything is like scaled, by our employees every day. Nothing is pre-bag mixed. And we've actually had purveyors come to us and try and sell us premix, like donut premix, where you pretty much just add water and throw it in a mixer. And they thought it would be a good selling point to name drop some places that do that, which kind of unfolded, revealed some secrets of some self-proclaimed scratch places that are actually using premix, which is it's not cool. It's misleading. If you're not going to be making it from scratch, don't say it's from scratch.
Well, not only that, if it's not look, I don't care if it's not from scratch, honestly. Like, I go to Miss Donuts in Lemon Grove, or I go to Donut Star. I know they're not from scratch, but it's priced accordingly.
Exactly.
It's $1. Don't make a pre-mixed donut and charge triple that. That's where I think that's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm willing to go to your shop and, buy a $3 donut because I know I'm not getting this exact thing anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the difference is between you and some other places in town.
Yeah, that's where some people have tried to, argue. They're like, well, I don't get it, like $3. But, well, I was like, okay, well, if you compare it to a place that does the premixed stuff, say, okay, you have one person, you come in and they open up a bag, mixes some water. That's it. They mix it, they roll it. That's done. I was like, ours is you have someone who has to scale it. They do kind of a pre-dough part of it, mix it, then they mix the full dough, then they let that rise, then they punch it down, then they let it rise again, then they roll it out, then they punch it. I was like, then the glaze part, someone had to make that from scratch, whisking and sifting the powdered sugar, however much goes in there. Then the jam that's going in there, someone diced up the fruit, they cooked that jam on the stove for an hour. So it's like all these little processes versus someone just opening up a tub and putting it in there, opening up a tub and glazing it. And so I was like, that you kind of have to pay for those processes to happen. Yeah. But that's where it's coming from fresh fruit. It's getting made from scratch. There aren't preservatives in it. And that's where also too, people have tried to order donuts, for next day and stuff like that. I was like, well, ours has a shelf life of 1 day because we don't use any preservatives, which is what a lot of these premixes have.
And again, it's, we live in a city where we take pride in our craft beer. We should take pride and we should recognize what is a craft donut, and there are craft donut places around town and they're opening up all over. But let's call it what it is. This is a craft donut compared to this, some of the other places that are fake craft, and I'm not going to name names because I don't think that's fair. They're not here to defend themselves, but at the same time, let's celebrate you and what you're doing at Nomad for the donuts that you handcraft. How long did it take you to develop your bagel recipe, and are you happy with the end product about 6 months in?
The bagels did not take as long. The donuts, when I first came up with that recipe, that one took about 20 plus revisions. Yeah, just from tweaking different processes, different flours, different ratios, adding it was like from what the donut dough started, the very first one that I made, to what it ended up as is night and day. So it was definitely about 20 revisions with the donuts. Bagels, it took a few. It was a handful, not too much tweaking. And yeah, I'm happy with the product.
Where were you testing that? Because I know your kitchen wasn't built out yet.
Yeah. So our buddy Mario, he has...
Mario, who is a co-owner of the Friendly.
Of the Friendly, yeah. He did... he has a Caliano truck, so he has the portable wood fire that he did pizzas in. And so we were still waiting for our gas meter to be installed at the new shop. So we were just kind of at a standstill with R&D for bagels. So I called him up and had him park his wood fire oven on the side of the shop, and we were just outside testing bagels.
Once again, another great collaboration between people in this city. And I think the more you listen to this podcast and Kiss My Glass, the other corresponding podcasts, or the what you get is a sense of people are really open to helping each other in the city. Who are some of the people that you couldn't do this with? I mean, because they've helped you so much in the collaborations.
Oh, man. There's so many to list. Definitely, I mean, even just in like the Uptown, Hannes, Letty, for sure, have been huge in just like, the North Park, Chef Oz.
So Letty's over at Beerfish now.
Mm-hmm, she was at Beerfish.
And then Oz is over at Cueva.
Uh-huh. And Hannes, obviously Carnitas. We've done a lot of ours. We get a lot of support and, work a lot with the breweries too. For sure, even just our surrounding fall, obviously, Thorn, Belgian Beaver, we did some Epic, San Diego, Modern Times, Green Flash. We do a lot of work with some of these people regularly.
How does it feel to be at the forefront of this donut movement in San Diego? I mean, you're carrying this, it's, and I'm so proud of you. You're such a humble person and just so nice. How does it feel to be kind of, you're making newspaper articles all over the country now, tell us about that.
It's pretty awesome, especially just because, how you're asking how I got into this it was really random, just by chance. I was at Mr. A's and a friend of a friend said, it was a friend of Cameron's, said that they were looking for a pastry chef. They had someone already, and I guess she bailed and they didn't work out. So they were stuck already with the location, now with no chef. So that's when she got me in contact with Brad. I sent my resume. And at first I was just like, I don't know, donuts, because, it wasn't as much of a thing here yet. So honestly, I was just kind of like, I don't know about donuts, going from fine dining. And then once I actually sat down and I was like, you know what, let me just meet with them and see what they have to say. And once they said that they were looking for just, super creative, kind of out there, mix of sweet and savory, I was like, that's it. Like that's exactly what I've been looking for. Is just somewhere to have like creative freedom and be able to mix sweet and savory and not have any rules, I guess, so to speak, and not be tied to, this is a French restaurant, so you can't really put all these Asian flavors in there, or you can't go crazy with flavors because you're tied to a specific cuisine.
Now donuts are the canvas, and you can
exactly, and that's why it was so cool, because at first I didn't really think that much of donuts, but then I was like, this is the perfect canvas because I can just go any which way flavor-wise with it. So it is really cool because it was just taking something so simple and really not thinking it was going to blow up the way it did, which was really cool because it was just super unexpected. And I was just like, I'm just here to make donuts and make some cool flavors and mix some weird flavors together, not thinking anything much of it. And honestly, I was really scared too, because I was like, they can really hate it. Like, this can get received really poorly, and people will be like, what the hell is she doing? Which I know some people do, for sure. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. What we do is not everyone's cup of tea.
Well, what's that saying? If you have haters, you're doing something right.
Exactly. So, but it's pretty cool that, I get to just do what I love to do, and it's getting received well.
Here's the question for you. Raised donuts or cake donuts?
I like raised, like, any time of the day, but I like cakes when they're fresh.
Yes, exactly.
But, like, cake donuts later on in the day, not as much.
I also like old fashions. That's my cake. Or crullers.
Crullers are
those are my like
favorite.
kind of. That's always a test to me. Like at some of these donut places, I want to test those two things. Because I know if they do those two things right, they will end up doing a lot of other things correctly. I'm a raised donut kind of guy.
Yeah.
Because I think there's personally, you can eat 3 or 4 of those. Where cake donuts, after 2, I tap out.
Yeah, it's just so much more dense.
Yeah. What's the perfect thing to have with your donut?
Coffee.
Coffee?
Coffee, maybe has whiskey in it.
I want to go to that place. Let's go to that party. When you create a new flavor, what do you look for? What do you like? You've been doing this for a while now.
A couple different routes. Some are just to kind of go a completely unexpected, surprising route, And then the other would be to kind of take something that is more familiar and reintroduce it in a donut form. For example, the honeydew mint prosciutto. People are used to that combination in an hors d'oeuvre appetizer form. But if you just transform it and, reintroduce it in a donut form, it's pretty interesting.
I think one of the great testaments to your donuts is I go to Nomad with a vegan all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I've gotten a vegan donut and then a regular donut of the same flavor, and we'll mix it up, and I can't tell the difference. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great testament to how you are doing vegan donuts.
There's quite a few customers who've come in, and if we run out of flavor of regular and we say, oh, well, we have the vegan one, and they're like, oh, no. I'm like, no, but really you can't taste a difference. And I think they automatically assume gluten-free maybe, so they're thinking maybe a little more of the cardboard, the texture is going to be different. And so I keep trying to tell them, texturally, you're not going to notice a difference. It's maybe literally just substituting, soy milk for regular milk. It's not much difference at all. And at first they're really scared, but then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw in a vegan just so you can try it. On me, just so you can try it and see. And they've come back and be like, we're not kidding. I couldn't tell the difference at all.
Yeah. The last time I was there, actually, I ran into Roger Harrington of Specialty Produce. And I said, what are you doing here so early? He goes, it's the only place I get vegan donuts. And I said, I didn't know you were vegan. He goes, yeah, I go here, then I go to Holy Matcha a couple of doors down, and it's my perfect place. And he walked out with 24 donuts. And then as I was walking out, he was walking out with a little 4-pack of Holy Matcha. So, you have a following, and I think it's probably the best vegan donuts in town right now. I know there are others, but what you are doing with your flavor combinations, with your textures, it's probably, in my opinion, the best vegan donut.
Thank you. Wow, Edwin saying the best?
I know, right?
That's so against.
Well, when there's only 6 of them in town, it's easy to say, okay, this is the best, because there are just not, it's hard to say this is the best pizza or this is the best taco because there's in your whole lifetime, I don't think you can eat every single taco in town. Mm-hmm. But I've actually eaten, I think, every vegan donut purveyor in town.
Fair enough.
So that's why I'm not hesitant to say the best in this particular context. Mm-hmm. So that's just a little explanation on that, because I know people always get at me for getting about this whole favorite versus best. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, when there is a limited amount of something, it's easier or more justifiable to say best.
Yeah.
Where do you eat around town?
Oh, let's see. I actually stay kind of within, our vicinity. Our most regulars are Psycho, Grandel. What else? Friendly now. Yeah. Yeah. So those 3 and Beerfish. Yeah, we keep it pretty close proximity.
It's been a crazy month for you. I know it was your birthday. You just got engaged on your birthday.
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When's the big day?
We haven't set a date yet.
Yeah, just engaged. Mm-hmm. How long have you been with Fernando?
4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm. And you opened up the new, or you reopened the old Nomad for coffee. So what else are you going to do this month? I mean, it's been a crazy whirlwind tour for you.
Yes. As far as this year, I don't know what other big projects, or so to speak, are going to be going on. I think it's just going to be getting dialed in that other, the other shop, and eventually, starting to look at other projects of little counterfronts.
I'm begging Brad to let me help him on that one. I want you guys to be so successful so that way you don't have to be there all the time and you're just basically the face of Nomad and because Brad's too pretty for the radio. You have a kid?
I do.
How old is he?
He's 8.
Yeah. Does he like your donuts?
He does. He is definitely my biggest critic.
Really?
It's my 2 at home. Fernando for sure, and it's my 2 at home. They're the most honest, and they will be the one, and especially with kids, they're so
honest.
They're so honest, and he'll try and he'll be like, "Yeah, no, I don't like that one so much." But
so when he likes it, there's a good chance 90% of the population will like it, right?
He actually came up, I think it was within our first year that we were open, he put a donut on the menu, and that was the first one to sell out.
What?
Yeah.
What did he make?
He told me to make a green apple prosciutto.
Kid's got style.
Yeah. And then the other one he did was a pomegranate maple pineapple. That one actually came out really good.
Who is this kid?
Yeah, he comes up with these flavors. He's got a pretty developed palate. One of his favorite things, whenever we go to carnitas, he always goes around the herbs and will pick out the individual herbs and taste them and smell them individually. And he likes to familiarize himself.
Would you want your child to be in the industry?
No.
What are some of the hard things of this industry?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I love the fact that he does, because he says that that's what he wants to do, He wants to cook, and he loves being in the kitchen and being around food. But I was just like, I want you to be kinder to yourself. Be kinder to your body, because it's a grueling one, man. It is not an easy industry on the body, for sure.
Yeah, you had a health scare not too long ago.
Yeah.
So you know firsthand.
I do. I was, my body just completely just shut down, and I was in the hospital for a week.
Yeah.
And it was all kinds of things, just everything going out of whack, like liver, lungs, all this stuff. And literally it was just like your body just shut down and was just just needs to stop.
So don't get into the restaurant industry is the point of this. No, I mean, people don't realize
how hard you work for for how little you get paid.
And especially on the pastry side, there's so much waiting in that, we have to wait for dough to rise. Mm-hmm. We have to wait for things to set. I think a lot of bakers can cook, but not a lot of cooks can bake because they don't have patience, and when I was in a technical field, I was in IT before I got into owning a bakery, and the thing that got me into that was the idea that, hey, it's the most technical discipline in the culinary arts, so I could do this, but we can't just go a little bit of this or a little bit of that. It's all precise.
It is for sure a science, and that's kind of like how I was with the donuts. Just I couldn't, when I this dough recipe number 5 came out, and I was like, oh, I want to change this a little bit and that. You can't just go back and add this and that to it and throw it back in the mixer. No, you got to start all over again. Yeah. And that's just how it is too in just your regular day-to-day of pastry. Is if you mess something up, if it doesn't set right, this or that, you can't just throw a little bit more salt in or throw a little bit more of that spice in. And tweak the flavors a little bit more. You literally have to chuck it and start all over.
You're 4 hours behind now.
Yeah.
Because you have to do all that, the pre-mix, and then all the raising, and so yeah, it's one of those things that I don't think people really understand, in especially commercial baking, is the consistency that you have to do over the course of not only the day, but now people like what you're doing. You have to be consistent tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that's, in my head, that was the most grueling aspect of baking, is the idea of just trying to achieve perfection all the time.
I think our biggest, not our biggest, I would say, but a very big factor that people don't even think about or realize, and more so, I've noticed it more so than ever, just because in this shop is what we're focusing on is yeast, both donuts and bagels, is the aspect of things beyond your control, like weather and humidity, temperature. Those factors have such a huge effect on the outcome of your product. And that those are factors that are beyond your control, but you have to be able to adjust to them on a day-to-day. Because one day you come in and it's 10 degrees hotter in the kitchen, so that dough's going to go faster, and this is going to happen faster. You need to, change mix times. So a lot of times people don't realize that things beyond our control have a huge part in our daily consistency. That's like, it's a daily fight, with the weather and humidity, it's a daily battle of consistency. It's, and that's why people are like, well, the bagel or, the donut this day was, softer than that day, or it was prettier this day than that day. Why can't it be the same every day?
Because every day is not the same.
Because you don't even realize that the biggest factor is beyond our control.
Right. Which leads me to this question. Did you have to tweak recipes from going from the smaller space to the bigger space because of the things you cannot control?
Mm-hmm. Even things as much as because the morning, like the air draft, like the temperature is drastically different from that small shop to that big one. Yeah. Because now it's like, especially in the winter, it's way colder. It was cold over there in the winter, but this one you were actually getting way more of a draft because it's pulling in, the hood is pulling in all the makeup air. Yeah. And so it gets a much colder draft in there.
And then in the summer, it's going to be a little bit different because it's so small, or the old one is so small that,
it gets hotter, quicker.
Hotter. Right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it definitely was tweaking things. And then even going from there to there is, we had a new mixer going there. So even the speed ones were different from the speed two. So it's like, even those little things you have to change and be able to adjust, all these factors.
I'm just having a flashback of all the problems I had in my baking days because, I'd come in the morning and someone put it on 200 instead of 220, and now all of a sudden this thing didn't proof properly. I have to wait another X amount of time before I could do anything with it, and it just throws your entire schedule off, just 20 degrees,
And then even especially like with the bagels too, that front window, it gets super cold up there in the morning. And so even, in this last week, even when it's been this drop in weather, everything's been taking longer. The oven's been taking longer to heat up. The dough's been taking longer to proof. So it's like everything gets backed up a little bit more. So it's like now the bagels, when they're ready to be coming out of the oven at a certain time, now it's pushed back a little bit more, like, 30, whatever, however long, just because of the weather.
In California, we just legalized marijuana. Is there a future in making Nomad edibles?
As far as now, no, just because of the whole government, how it is, state legal but not government legal.
Yeah.
So until it becomes really legitimately fully legal, we're not going to risk that.
Have you been asked to do the marijuana pairing dinners?
Yes. I have been asked to do those. Those are a little bit different just because it's more of a private setting. It's me going on my own and
not of a part of Nomad, but not representing Nomad officially.
Yes. So I'm just representing myself. I am from Nomad, but I'm just representing myself as a chef taking place in this dinner.
And do you think it's how do you best do the pairing in that sense? Is it inside of the mix, inside of the glaze? What would you do if you did a pairing, let's say?
Oh, it could be all kinds of ways. Yeah, it could definitely be in the mix, definitely in the in the dough, in the glaze. It can be made in the custard. That's the kind of beauty of it is now, especially nowadays, where before, everything was just, the go-to was just to make butter. So you kind of had to always do something that had butter or oil. But now you have these extracts that are available, these medicated sugars. And so you have different ways to now infuse, which means it really sky's the limit on infusing it.
So in a donut, how many grams do you suppose is in one of those to be effective, but also not to be too overpowering in grams?
That's such a hard question to answer just because everyone's level is different. It's 100 milligrams to someone. It can be, a world of difference, to somebody else, and to someone, 30 grams will hit them really hard. And to someone else, 30 grams is going to be like, eh. So it really depends on, I guess, the personal, consumption level.
Tolerance.
Yeah, the tolerance is really what it comes down to, which is, I think, another hard thing about this whole legalizing of it is what will come of it as far as regulating it. Like, how are they going to regulate what dosages are?
I think it's one of the toughest things why I've been hesitant to go to these dinners. First, I don't know how they're dosing. Mm-hmm. And second, first of all, I don't know if I can handle, 7 courses of something. And then now I'm sitting with 14 different strangers that I don't know what they can handle.
Yeah.
Where beer, you put it, we've been to beer dinners where I just take a couple of drinks, see how it tastes with the food, and give it to someone else if I'm getting to that point. Mm-hmm. Where some of this other, with marijuana, it ends up
it has a delayed effect.
Absolutely.
And so, it's just going to hit you way later, which is definitely a scary, thing, which is going to be interesting to see how they regulate all of this as far as, who's to say what level is a regulatory amount.
So, you've brought us some treats.
Yes.
Tell us about some of these things that you've brought. A couple of boxes of donuts and a giant box of bagels too.
Okay, so some of today's selections of donuts. The 2 crullers I brought, because you were talking about crullers. One is a Thai tea cruller, and the other one is a honey saffron pistachio. We brought our signature ube taro coconut, which is a purple yam, very popular in Filipino desserts. And we have what else do we have? A pumpkin chai, coconut pandan, pineapple basil, passion fruit orange guava, blackberry rosemary.
All the hits.
Yeah. A peach jam with a jasmine tea, hopia with coconut coffee.
You're the second Filipino I've had on this show. First one was DJ, who is the chef over at Bivouac Cider Works. You're my second consecutive female on this, and also the second consecutive female pastry chef. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you want to... How do we follow you online?
Online, it's Nomad Donuts. Instagram, yeah. Instagram is just Nomad Donuts. Same thing. Facebook is just Nomad Donuts. And then our website's nomaddonuts.com. That is still in the updating process, our website, as we're trying to channel in both shops into the website. So we are at University in Illinois in the big shop. And we reopened our original location at 4504 30th Street, which is in between El Cajon and Adams. And we are doing coffee and a small selection of donuts over there. No bagels yet, but definitely head over there for some awesome coffee and donuts.
Did you move that machine from that old location, or from the new location back to the old one?
No, that big white one. No, that one stayed over there.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah, so we just got new equipment for the original shop.
So, Christiana, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for all the donuts. We're going to share it with the office here. Again, sincerely, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you for listening to Dish It Up, a monthly collaboration between Pacific Magazine and the Facebook group Eating and Drinking in San Diego. And now it's time for some cool food events to watch out for around San Diego. Nowruz is a festival that marks the beginning of spring and the rebirth of nature, celebrated by many cultures including Central Asia, Balkan, and Persian communities. To celebrate, on March 15th, the gas lamp location of Cafe 21 will have live Azerbaijan music and a 4-course dinner. Information about the event is available at cafe-21.com. Also on March 15th, Steak Chop House in Coronado will offer a 5-course dinner featuring blue corn sopes, dry-aged Lone Mountain Wagyu sirloin, and dark chocolate tart. A variety of whiskeys will be paired with each course. Visit Steak, spelled S-T-A-K-E, chophouse.com. On March 19th, chefs will go head-to-head in a ceviche chef showdown to see who will move on to the competition's culminating event at the Little Italy Art Walk in April. Information is available at vanguardculture.com. The month will wrap up with a nod to Women's History Month during a Here's to Strong Women 6-course female chef-prepared dinner that will be paired with beers from women brewers. Proceeds will benefit Hermanitas Mana de San Diego. Information is at machetebeerhouse.com. If there's a food event worth noting on the calendar, let us know. Drop an email to leslie@pacificsandiego.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @PacificSD for more cool events to keep you busy all year long. Craving more? Be sure to sign up for this podcast and our Drink Forward podcast, Kiss My Glass, which hits airwaves on the 4th Monday of the month.